not the Oilers fan. Darius, not the Oilers fan. I'm also not an Oilers fan. So it's gonna be a big talking point for Matt here. He has dealt with the Kings a lot, so he probably knows a lot about them, despite them shaking up the roster a little bit. But Matt, I'm gonna make you wait a little bit longer. Let's talk about the LA Kings first, okay,
Let's go.
buddy?
All right.
Now Matt, it has been quite the season for the Kings. They were on, they were off, then they were back on. Pierre-Luc Dubois is a fourth line center, or he was a few times after they gave him an 8.5, 8-year extension, all that good stuff. Drew Doughty is playing great. But the goaltending, Matt, the goaltending. Now, I know there's nothing to boast about in Edmonton's goaltending, but I think right now the Oilers tandem is David Riddick and Cam Talbot. How much of a problem is that going to be?
If it's 2017 Talbot, I'll be a little worried, but I mean, the Oilers, like year in, year out, they've seen this guy enough. They know his weaknesses. But I don't think it'll come down to goaltending. Like, I'll just read off Cam Talbot's stats here. He made the All-Star game, 27, 20, and 6 with a 250 goals against average and a 913 save percentage.
It's pretty good.
Yeah. And if he falters and they have to go to David Riddick, it will go very south for them.
But yeah, goaltending's certainly going to be interesting. But Darius, the forwards on the Kings coming into this season, we were looking at them saying they were going to be one of the deepest forward groups in the league. But the lines are very interesting. It's quite spread out. Right now, their first line is Alex Laferriere, not to be confused with Alexis Lafreniere.
You know how many times it's gotten me this year? Like Alex Laferriere. It's like, wait a minute. No, no, wait a damn minute.
Center Anze Kopitar on the right wing, underrated Adrian Kempe, very good player. Trevor Moore, second line left wing, scored 31 goals this year. If you didn't know that.
Yeah.
Philip Deneau, he's gonna be stapled to that motherfucking 97 on the Oilers. Victor Arvidsson has come back from injury and still looked decent. Fiala Lizotte, Trevor Lewis, and then right now, this as the fourth line. I don't know how well that will be because I can see Byfield going back to the first line left wing, but it's Byfield, Dubois, Turcotte. I don't know if they're all just playing bad right now, but that's a pretty good fourth line, Darius. How strong and deep is this LA Kings forward group?
Very, and we covered it at the beginning of the season. I don't think that fourth line is going to stay like that. I have a hard time believing that because that's not a very good playoff fourth line either. And I think it's just because they're not playing well, and I think they want to get Byfield going again. I'm a big fan of Quentin Byfield, and I think he's probably going to end up on that first line again. It's probably just because Laferriere is playing well right now. So
he's been great.
Go with the hot hand, right? Trevor Moore, love that too. Obviously, former Leaf, putting in 31 goals. Fantastic season for him. Hopefully, he can continue it in the playoffs. He was a good playoff player too, so that'd be fun. But it's hard to, I don't know, look at the Kings overall and not look at like the defense and the goaltending and be like, maybe that's where the problems are. And that's going to be an issue against the Oilers. I don't care how much Philip Deneau plays against Connor McDavid. The Oilers have other really good players too. So I don't know. It's going to be a fun series for sure. It's going to go the distance, but I think the Kings, I don't know. I just don't like PLD, for example. I feel like the Kings would have been better.
No one does.
I think the Kings would have been better without that trade. But here we are, episode 3, possibly Revenge of the Kings. It's going to be fun.
Yeah, it should be interesting. Speaking of defense, it's not great, but guys like Drew Doughty is still there. Mikey Anderson, Vlad Gavrikov, who they got at the last trade deadline. Matt Roy or Roy, I'm not even sure what it would be, and then Jordan Spence has been a young good player for them. But Matt, it seems like the Kings, no matter how much they change around the roster, we're still going to be relying on the guys who won the Cups in 2012 with Anze Kopitar and Drew Doughty. How much of an impact are those guys still making 10 years later, almost 12 years later?
I mean, Doughty, he kind of had that like career renaissance a few years ago. Like he's kind of washed, and then he's no longer washed. I think he's only 34 years old. I'm fairly certain. And then Kopitar, he's still around. He's more of like a mentor for that younger team. That's why the Kings went out and got PLD to be, Kopitar Part 2. Doesn't look like it's going that way so far, but I mean, there's still 7 more years on that contract.
Yes, sir.
But I mean, looking around the Kings lineup, their projected lineup, that first line, Byfield, Kopitar, Kempe and Fiala, they seem to kill the Oilers every time they meet.
They're great players. They're great players.
They're fantastic. Byfield, I think he's got, I do believe he has 6 points in 4 games against the Oilers this year. So he's going to be kind of tough to contain. He's growing into his own style of player. Like
Yeah,
he's a
ever since they put him on wing, he
yeah.
seems figured out.
Who would have thought? But looking around like the rest of the lineup, like their third line, Arvidsson, PLD, LaFerriere, and then that fourth line, they got a few guys that they've been a thorn in Edmonton's side throughout the last 2 years of the playoffs and even the regular season too. The Arthur Kaliev, Blake Lizotte, and Trevor Lewis.
They have a lot of guys that can be like switched around. It seems like come in and out of the lineup. Speaking of Kopitar, though, 70 points in 81 games, and he is 36 years old. He's 36.
36.
He's still doing this kind of stuff. And back to you were speaking about Drew Doughty, who do you guys remember the theory when the Kings were bad? Like Drew Doughty basically just didn't care. Like he was just playing like he didn't give a fuck. And it literally seems like that was true. Because like when the Kings started playing good again, he also got good again. Because this year Doughty had 50 points in 82 games, and he is 34 years old. So it's certainly interesting. But all that to say, we know what this series is going to be. It's going to be Connor McDavid once again. Can he torch the LA Kings? And Darius, do you think Connor McDavid does it again?
I do. I have a hard time betting against the Oilers again. Not just Connor McDavid, the Oilers, but McDavid. I mean, he is the Oilers. Let's be honest, right? In a way, he does everything for them. He is everything for them. So yes, I think the Oilers and Connor McDavid are going to get it done again. I think the Kings are worse than the last 2 years. I do. Goaltending, everything in every aspect. I think they're just a little bit worse, but they're in the same position again. They're going to play the Oilers again. I think the Oilers are continuing to get better, and they're figuring out different positions. So I think the Oilers and Connor McDavid are going to do it again. They're going to do it again to the Kings 3 times. Yep. That's tough. That is tough.
That is tough. It's like the Leafs and Bruins.
Yeah.
There was a stat. This is the first time two teams have met in the first round 3 consecutive years since Dallas and Edmonton from 1999 to 2001, and Dallas won all 3. So hopefully we can get a part 2.
You need that, but the Oilers, the Kings didn't really do anything at the deadline, but the Oilers made a big move for my boy Adam Henrique and Matt. I know it took him a few games to get acclimated with the Oilers, but I know recently he's looked a lot better. How do the Oilers lines shake up here? Because they have a lot of decisions to make. Do they split up McDavid and Draisaitl? Hyman's Stapleton, McDavid. How do you get Evander King going in the playoffs again? Does Henrique play third line center? Is he on the wing? Is McLeod on the wing? There's so much moving pieces on that Oilers forward group. How do you think it shakes out?
You know how Chris Knobloch likes to, play around with his lines, but the projected lineup from the NHL.com, are these 100%? Absolutely not, but this is how they stack out. Nugent Hopkins, McDavid, Hyman, what should be the first line. Do not break that lineup. They were dynamite during that 16-game win streak, and then Knobloch broke them up, and then they just kind of, I don't want to say meddled, but they weren't, the same team they were during that streak. And then Henrique on that second line left wing with Draisaitl and Warren Foegele, who I think might have the opportunity to sort of break out. We've been waiting for Warren Foegele to finally do something. Hopefully this is the year he does it. And then Evander Kane, Ryan McLeod, Corey Perry for that third line, the young gun Ryan McLeod, and then the two vets with Evander Kane and Corey Perry.
That's a playoff third line, man. Jeez.
Is a playoff third line. And then my guy, Dylan Holloway, with Mattias Janmark and Connor Brown for that fourth line. It's a little bit disrespectful to the Dylan Holloway, seeing as as he's come back from injury, he's been phenomenal. But fourth line,
shout out Connor Brown.
Shout out Connor Brown. And then the defense.
Wait, Matt, hold on, Matt.
What's up? Let's talk
about the forwards for a sec. Do you think Evander Kane is still gonna make a huge impact in this playoffs?
Every time I go on Oilers Twitter and Evander Kane has an awful game, the replies are, "Oh, just wait to what he does in the playoffs." But other than the 2022 playoff run against the Kings, the Flames, and the Avalanche last year, I didn't really see anything special from him. Do you have the stats from Evander Kane's 2023 run?
I can pull it up if you keep talking.
All right.
It's just the interesting thing is with Evander Kane, this year, 24 goals, but 44 points in 77 games. Like you said, Matt, let's get into his playoff stats. You said that first season when he got basically his contract was terminated by the Sharks. He came into Edmonton, 13 goals in 15 games. But Matt, you are entirely right. You are entirely right about that second season because he had 5 points and 3 goals in 12 games. He was basically a non-factor. And Matt, do you get this Evander Kane? Do you get 2 years ago Evander Kane? Or you get something in between?
I think with the addition, you got guys like veterans like Henrique and Perry who won't really put up with any shit. I think we'll see a more rejuvenated Evander Kane because you saw there was that big hubbub after the Calgary game when you saw Corey Perry and Evander Kane, I don't want to say duking it out on the bench, but uh sort of going at each other. Perry knows that Evander Kane can elevate to a higher level than what he was performing to that night. And I think we'll get that in the playoffs.
Yeah, and now Matt, let's shift over to arguably the Oilers' biggest weakness. Not arguably, definitely the Oilers' biggest weakness.
Yes.
Aside from that Bouchard Ekholm pair, and even Bouchard we know has his crazy defensive woes, and Ekholm hopefully makes up for that. Their defense is not strong. It's not great. What are the defensive projected pairs going into this series?
The projected pairs, you got Ekholm and Bouchard, of course. You got Nurse, Darnell Nurse, and Cody Ceci, and then I think they've been slept on. Not Nurse and Ceci, God no. Brett Kulak and Vincent Desharnais, like their underlying numbers, like
Matt, I missed someone's name in that.
Oh,
you didn't say someone.
I didn't say. Oh, you're right. Troy Stetcher. He was one of the Oilers' deadline acquisition. No, I think the name you're looking for there is Philip Broberg,
who is not going to be in the playoff lineup because he's just not that great, unfortunately. But Darius, how bad is this? We talked about the Kings' defensive core not being super amazing. This Oilers one is awful, I think. Aside from those two guys, how important is that going to be in this series?
Very important, and it has been the last 2 years, and they still get it done. So I'm not worried if I was an Oilers fan about that. It's just I would be more worried after this series because as you go deeper in the playoffs, yes, it is thin. It's not a good defensive core, but they make up for it because they're super top heavy on offense. So they have to outscore their problems. That's just the way it is, right? And they're going to have lots of problems and defensive breakdowns. We see it the last 2 years. But again, I wouldn't be worried because we've seen it against this Kings team. They can get the job done. So I wouldn't be worried in this series. It's just when you go deeper in the playoffs, you are correct. That defensive core is not good. It's not great.
No, it's not great.
It's really not great. Although the first pairing is good. Like that, those are two very good players. But the rest is not great.
It's sort of going to be like a bend but don't break playoff series. Like the Kings will want to, get that all important first goal and then sort of sit back in their 1-3-1 and then just control the rest of the game. While the Oilers, in the past few games they played against Los Angeles, they played more of a patient game. That kind of frustrates LA when LA tries to get other teams to play their style, and the Oilers just flat out refuse to do that.
Yep, I think it's going to be a super exciting series. And importantly, two people we haven't talked about is Leon Draisaitl and Zach Hyman. Zach Hyman, 50 goal year. We've talked about him before at length. He's great. He's going to be super important in this playoffs. Plays playoff style hockey. But Matt, Leon Draisaitl last year, he got pretty injured. Towards the end of the run there against Vegas. He's back. He's healthy. You think he's going to have another fire lit under him as he always does in the playoffs?
I mean, that 2020, not just the 2023 run, but the 2022 run when he was on one leg and he's still doing superhuman things. No, he will not have a quiet playoff year. Like he always seems to elevate his game heading into the playoffs. Sure, kind of has a lackluster year on both sides of the puck, but as soon as it hits the third week of April, Draisaitl turns into Claude Lemieux without the cheap shots.
he's locking in now, Darius. My final question for you is that all-important Oilers power play. What do the Kings have to do to first of all, try and avoid it and attempt to kill it? Is that even possible?
I don't think so with that personnel. And they're going to, just odds are, right, that they will kill off a few. But I think the Oilers are going to eat them alive more often than not. So the key for the Kings is to stay out of the box. Forget what you can do on the penalty kill. Stay out of the box. Limit the chances that the Oilers can go to the power play, right? Because the Oilers power play is crazy. Like, it's really good. And I know because they have Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl on it, but they have so many weapons in the way they move the puck. It is super dangerous. So just stay out of the box. I don't think you're going to be able to kill it off all the time. Like, you're going to get scored on more often than not. So don't take penalties. If
We
you're
all,
the
we
Kings.
in all the Oilers games, if they were ever down like 4-1 or 3-0,
Oh, they're coming back.
you give them a power play. Oof. Matt, what do you want to say?
Now, I've actually got the numbers here. The Oilers had the fourth best power play in the NHL this season, 26.3%. Obviously, it's so weird to say that they had 26.3. That was down from last year, 32.4% when they set the NHL record. But the Kings, where do you guys think they ranked on the penalty kill?
On the penalty kill?
On the penalty kill. If you just have to take a quick guess.
21st.
Ooh.
21st. Okay.
You know what? Because you're asking the question, I feel like they were good. So I'm gonna say third.
Second,
Wow.
84.6.
Wow. Okay.
So
all right.
it's gonna be a chess match.
It's the unstoppable force versus the immovable object, boys. It's gonna be interesting.
But that's a series against the Oilers power play.
Hey, that's a series against the Kings penalty kill, buddy.
We'll see. All right. Yep.
But
they also
Touche.
they scored 11 shorthanded goals this
pretty
year.
good.
I don't know where that ranks amongst the league, but
That
it was
seems
just
pretty
in
high.
the stats.
I think the Kings are gonna have to take it physically to the I don't think the Oilers defense is built for a physical game. Despite Vincent Darnay, I think the Kings are gonna have to take it physically, dump the puck in, crash into these guys. Evan Bouchard seems to get a little shook in the defensive zone, so they're gonna have to take advantage of that. But it's gonna be a crazy series. Darius, who is winning the series and in how many games?
The Oilers are winning the series in 6 games.
Yeah, the Oilers they can never make it easy. Oilers in 6.
You know what, guys? I think the Kings can get it done this year, boys. I'm gonna take the Kings in 7.
Wow.
In
Wow.
7
Okay,
games.
mix it up.
I think it can happen. Mix it up. I think the Kings can take it in 7. But would I be surprised? I wouldn't be surprised if the Oilers won this in 5, to be honest with you guys. So I can see the Kings taking it all the way to 7, or the Oilers being the absolute crap out of them in 5 games. It's gonna be 1 or 2. But guys, that is the last series we are recording of the day. So we appreciate you guys listening and watching so far. Enjoy the Stanley Cup playoffs games. The first round, it's so exciting. As I said at the end of every video, for everyone at the Gritcast, thank you. Enjoy the weather. Enjoy everything. Enjoy your lives. This is a good time. Let's go, man. Peace out. And yeah, have a good one.
For more content, visit our YouTube channel and check us out on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Don't forget to follow the guys on social media at Matt_Mondays, at Nick LaFlame, and at Darius Dominguez.